Thank you very much. Just for the beginning, I would like to make an exercise with you after lunch. You know this is our highest banknote, 5,000 crowns. This is not one of the highest value. There are not many countries having a high value note. I think 500 euro banknote has a higher value, but you can hardly spend it somewhere. I don't know what is your experience of having a heap of 5,000 notes, but we'll make an experiment. If you have these banknotes, so how tall would be the column of these banknotes if you were to pay for 4 nuclear reactors? We don't know how much it would be, but some estimate between what the government believes. This is a high estimate, but it's not a mega high. Some realistic estimate. It's not a difference in orders. Have you got some idea how high would be the column of these? So it would be 400 meters, 4 kilometers, 40 kilometers high, or 400 kilometers high. So this is one of the possibilities. Most people would say it's too much. Yes, one of these possibilities really is the one. And imagine you are in Belgium and you have to take a vote. So consider. So please, who believe that this column would be 400 meters high? Raise your hand. 4 kilometers. Okay. Those who believe 40 kilometers. Those who believe this is 400 kilometers. So, of course, the extreme values had smaller number of votes, so it means the central two were more realistic. It's 40 kilometers. So what it is to have a column of 40 kilometers? The airplanes are flying at the height of 10 kilometers, so it is 4 times higher than the airplane traveling height. So we have left the stratosphere and we are in the higher spheres. So we are just approaching the 100 kilometers limit. But not so much. There's a question, will we be able to take all the 5,000 notes? Will we be able to cover it? No. All the 500 notes in circulation would just cover 5,000 costs. So if you take all the money which is in circulation, so you would pay for 1 reactor. Unfortunately, we have internet banking, so zeros can be transferred and the bank system can create money by 1 click, just adding a 0. How have I come to the numbers? I'm preparing a podcast every morning for 6 minutes about our world. On the 1st of February, I was making these estimates and calculations, so you can find the details there. So if the government was to erect 4 reactors, so the number for today, it means the government debt would be increased by 63% if the government erects 4 nuclear blocks. So the government expected before the tender that they will have a cost of 160 billion per block. But we know that on the second place of the world list of adherence to the cost of nuclear power plants, so these nuclear plants are ranking 2. And so to be more realistic, according to the French Dukovany, which is being erected in the UK, so according to the rate of exchange in February, so it was roughly 666 billion per reactor. So maybe have cheaper concrete, cheaper labor, so it will be lower. So it would need that including discounts, would be realistically estimated at 2,000 billion. For 4 blocks. Why 4 kilometers? 40 kilometers. 100 banknotes is roughly 1 centimeter. And 1 centimeter is half a million. And 2 million, 4 centimeters. 2 million, and you have 2,000 billion. It means 1 million of centimeters of banknotes. 4 centimeters equals to 2 million, and you multiply it by 1 million to get the billion. So you arrived at 40 kilometers. 40 kilometers. So I'm calculating it for the first time, that's why I'm apologizing. And the government debt is 3,200 billion. The increase by 36%, and the new debt would be 72% of GDP. So we can say it's a good result. Italy has 150% of GDP. I don't think it's a good idea, because we are one of the small countries which are adhering to the Maastricht Treaty. Roughly 6-7 countries are adhering to the maximum of 60%. And so this debt would be influencing much more on this, because Italy has shown to financial markets that they are able to cope with 150% of GDP. So when we start to accepting such a debt, so we don't know what it would mean. So that's why smaller countries are then more careful and cautious. What is happening with the French debt from what happened after Macron opened new elections, after European Parliament elections? So cost of the construction. So we were talking about the economics. And without talking, so I'm talking about the construction and he's talking about the operational part. But we haven't agreed on it before. So when it is erected, so we'll be talking about later. This is what Mr. Niedermayer was talking about. So as for the construction, what do you think? What is the most expensive parameter or position in the construction of a nuclear power plant? It's a steel and concrete. First, labor, 3 is technology, and 4 is supervision and paperwork. Everything is necessary because there is a responsibility, there has to be a certain supervision, and there must be a lot of paperwork about it. And all these parts are a part, just aside the highest cost. The highest cost means time, and time means interest rates. Paying interest, and it means the main cost is interest. The longer it takes, the financial aspect or financial costs are higher. So these are the interests. If it is to be financed by the government, so it would be government debt. The government is financing under 5%. So it's relatively higher than it used to be in the years 2010-2020, but it was rather an exception, so it was extremely low. But now we are in higher numbers. Why it is cheaper to finance by government? It means the current 40% for which government is borrowing, so the private sector had to have higher interest rates plus risk allowance. So it means that the government, when we just ask her where to take finance from, whether it should be private or government sector, so government sector is definitely better because they don't have to pay the risk allowances because it will be paid by children, grandchildren, and so on. Because the government has an infinite horizon. So the private companies cannot compete with the government in financing or access to financing. Have we got an alternative? We are on the poorest territory of Europe as for the energy. What are the reasons? We haven't got sea. We can't import anything. We could import gas, everything, not electricity, but many things could be imported, any sources used for production of energy. We have coal, but it's no longer allowed. We are in a basin. We have a crater here. If you travel abroad in winter, so there was a hope of seeing the sun, because for several months in winter our crater is covered by clouds and you can hardly see sun. So the photovoltaic is not producing for nearly half a year here. The most of the crater is in a shadow. So this is a remark for just for explanation. So we have very low access to energy in Europe, but we are basically the most hungry ones for energy after Bulgaria. So we need something. Nuclear means something. We need some source. But nevertheless, we need something which we can import, and we'll see how much the nuclear source will be supplying, but it is the only technological opportunity for us in the period when we haven't got batteries. It means when these renewables could not be switched on. So if we were just concentrated on renewables, we would need a big amount of batteries. And this is the basis of many calculations mentioned here, how to reduce the carbon footprint. So, of course, the correction of the wind power plants, wind towers is very good, but the construction is not that much included. But nevertheless, you have to have a backup source because we haven't got the batteries. So the biggest advantage of nuclear power plant is that it can be switched on and switched off as a backup source. Problems of the future. We want to erect in the future when others want to. It means the capacity of the construction companies is exhausted. So they can cope with your order, but they need time. And the problem is that everybody wants to have it at the same time. So then it's economically not so convenient. On the other hand, we have the same problem. We want to just accept debt at the same time when others would like to have it. So lack of finance is visible. So it means the costs of financing will be increasing. This is just an estimate. So 10 years later, when we are in the middle of construction period, the financing will look completely different. So we want to erect in the most blocked country in Europe. And another thing, we don't know whether we have alternative things here. It means we want to do the nuclear fission. The technology is just round the corner, but we still are some 20 years before launching when we erect it now. So it's very difficult to decide. I say nuclear power plant, yes, but it depends how much, how many, and in which way. We would say that 4 at the same time is too much. It makes much more sense to erect 2 reactors by 2. And the economies of scale mean that it's better to erect 2 reactors than just 1. But 4 can be too much. I think that 2 is good, and then we will see. If we do a new calculation 10 years later, the ideal erection site is Dukovany. So but take into account the Dukovany, and we erect there the 6th reactor, so we haven't got enough water there. And this requires a new project. But for the time being, when we erect one, so we block the 6th reactor one, we are making water savings, so the 5th and 6th reactor would have to be erected with another cooling technology. Then we would say Temelin would be a suitable site. If the access to construction permits would be changed, which is a question of the whole national economy, means that the nuclear energy would pay back, even if it's double so costly. Thank you very much for your attention.